what you have to understand that sometimes people experience are very limited. So they only can speak from their own experience that they have in their circle. And most people's circle are not big. So a lot of people don't get out of the box. And when you don't understand mental health and mental illness, it is very complicated to understand how victims respond the way that they do when they are being sexually abused. Baby, you go home and put yourself in timeout. If you're not having a good day, don't you go mess up somebody else's day. All right, you guys, we are back, the Kitchen Table Podcast. And this month, during the month of April, is Child Abuse Awareness. And so with this podcast, we are going to be talking about child sexual abuse and what it is and what it looks like. And this particular one holds dear to my heart because a lot of people experience SA growing up. And I think what a lot of people don't understand that anytime that a child is being SA, 99.99.99% is always a family member or someone close to the family that has access to the child. And so I am so thankful for like the Me Too movement because of that. People are really finally speaking up and they are finally telling what happens. And what I found, even with the Me Too movement that's going on, that the victim is always blamed. Somehow, the victim is always blamed like they woke up and want that. And that's not the case. Because most people's like, well, you just wanted money or you just wanted to do this. You know that y'all, we have a big thing going on with some people in the music industry that had a lot of allegations and stuff. And I'm just reading, just different comments and people doing videos, and they are literally blaming the victim. And so I can't really like get upset for what they think. But what you have to understand that sometimes people experience are very limited. So they only can speak from their own experience that they have in their circle. And most people's circle are not big. So a lot of people don't get out of the box. And when you don't understand mental health and mental illness, it is very complicated to understand how victims respond the way that they do when they are being sexually abused. And so, yeah, there's a lot that goes with that. But the reason why a lot of victims do not say anything and they will carry it for years is because of shame and because of them not feeling like someone's going to believe them. And so a lot of times, most of the times, people really don't believe them. I've worked with children and I've worked with parents who did not believe their kids. And I can say in my community, it's not necessarily that we don't believe that it doesn't happen or it didn't happen. What stops people in my community most of the time from telling is because the person that is the predator, they don't want them to get into a lot of trouble with the law. In other words, if we tell them this, then someone of another race is really going to get them and they want to kind of protect them at the same time. And so you will find where you go to family gatherings, reunions or whatever, and everybody know Uncle Cornbread is a child molester. And so everybody knows that we are not going by him. Don't be alone by him. Don't get close to him. And the same thing ain't cornbread because it happens just as much for women. It happens to men, to boys too. And a lot of boys don't report because they're ashamed for one, but they are afraid of how people may make them look. Like, because boys, male, they are always told they're supposed to be strong and they're supposed to be able to take a lot of things. And so because of that, a lot of them will not report, but there are a whole lot of men that have been abused. And so I just kind of want to share that, and I will get off into more as we go on. But what is child sexual abuse? And so on this video right here, this lady breaks it down on what child sexual abuse is. And I hope you guys enjoy it. There's also going to be a link for you guys to actually, go and find this link and go on to YouTube and kind of get an understanding of what sexual abuse is. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be looking at is, waiting for it to come, defining sexual abuse. So we just define what sexual abuse is. And let me see if I need to go into it just a little bit deeper. So no, just the definitions that I gave you guys are, I think is pretty good as far as what sexual abuse is. And just knowing that anytime that there is any type of sexual contact with a child, with someone who has a developmental issue where they can't give consent and they don't understand what's going on, it does not have to mean that they are being penetrated. It can be oral, it can be touching, it can be exposing, and it also can be allowing a child to look at pornography and stuff. So those are all different forms of sexual abuse. The next thing we want to do is, what is a sexual predator? And I am going to spend a lot of time on this one because I think people need to understand what it is and what it looks like so you can have some insight and you're able to protect your child and do the things that you need to do to make sure that your child is not experiencing this, but also preparing them to so if someone do decide they want to try to essay your child, or if they do, then having those conversations is very, very important so they will know what to do. And I will get to that later on. But what is a sexual predator? So, a sexual predator is a person who seeks out sexual contact with another person in a predatory or in an abusive manner. That's what a sexual predator is. And so, sexual predator, they pressure individuals into a non-consensual sexual act. So, the power in the question can manifest itself in either physical, psychological matter, or perhaps just both of them spontaneously. So, the word sex offender typically denotes those who have been held by legal authorities. However, sexually abusive behavior is also carried out by individuals who have avoided detection. So I believe the reason why most sexual predators avoid being caught is because the victim grooming and the close relationship that the child has. And so I always tell people that when you see people helping a lot and they're always around kids and making sure that the kids are good and stuff, they out there doing a lot of things in the community so people know them and they're good. Not all of them, but most of them. That's what predators look like. And so, I'm gonna say that because recently in the area that I lived in, we had just even a couple of days ago, it was in the news like a year ago, a man who worked for the fire department in my city. He also owned a barber shop and some other businesses. And so he was really out there in the community doing all kind of stuff for youth and kids and stuff. He was just convicted, indicted on sexual abuse allegations that he had did some things. He had cameras in his home, that gave evidence to the allegations and stuff. And after they did all the research and stuff, he got a lot of years in he got sentenced to a lot of years. Reason why I'm saying this is because he had a lot of people that came and spoke on his behalf as his character. And so people look at what people do for the community, how nice they are and stuff, and those are what they use to camouflage who they really are. So you have to be real careful with that and real careful about who are you letting your child have, who have access to your child. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what does a predator looks like. And so once again, what I just told you are some things that a predator looks like. Sometimes predators are not always out there. They can be just like real quiet, very isolated and stuff. So the predator looks a lot like a whole different thing. So I'm going to read this. I'm trying to make it bigger because I can't see it on here, but I'm going to turn around and read what a predator looks like. So, family, friends, mentors, and people of authority. It is like that you are familiar with these individuals and have no type of animosity with them about entrusting them with your child or spending time with them. However, it is crucial to recognize that when child abuse occurs with people we know, the predator may not actively seek out opportunities to harm the child or the children. Instead, they exploit their access, trust, and being familiar with them, with the parent and the child, when present, with the chance taking advantage of situations that arise. So, in other words, one of the, and we'll get into this a little later, but one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is that before they get to the child, they have to get to the parent. And so their job is to first groom the parent and then they can groom the child. And some predators have waited, doesn't happen overnight. They'll wait a couple of months, a couple of weeks, and sometimes years before they actually move in. And that's how long it can take some of them to groom the child and the parent. So control common tools of child predator grooming. So here we go. Let me get over to this one. First, we're going to say what is grooming. So, grooming. Abusers frequently watch potential victims and choose them based on their ease of access to perceived weakness. Um, Let me kind of turn around this way. Is there any way I can make this bigger on here where I can see? Or okay. Okay, that's fine. Let me turn around and read. Grooming is the process by which someone establishes a friendship, trust, emotional connection with a child or a young person in order to manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. Grooming children and young people may be sexual abuse, exploited, or trafficking. Anyone, regardless of age, gender, or race, can become a groomer. Grooming can occur both in person and online. So typically, it is employed by a member of victim's family or a trusted individual within the victim's social circle, including coaches, teachers, youth group leaders, and others who have regular contact with the victim. Through grooming, though grooming can take many shapes, it frequently follows a similar pattern. And so, what are those grooming patterns? Let me talk about the grooming patterns. So, abusers frequently watch potential victims and choose them based on their ease of access or perceived weakness. So, let me give you kind of paint a picture in your mind. So, one of the things that the predator looks for, they look for the child who is not getting the attention and the care from the parent. And most of those kids are probably being neglected. Like, yeah, they parents there taking care of them, but there is no connection there. So a lot of them may feel alone. A lot of them may not feel like they're important. They have low self esteem, and that's what they look for. So the first type of parent that they're looking for is a single parent. Now they do look for parents who are married couples, but this is the kicker. If they have a child that they're going to groom and they're going to abuse that has a two-parent home, they're looking for the parent that's never at home. They're always working, 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 or they out, having fun and visiting people and really not being attentive to their kids and being parents. So those are the type of people that they're looking for. And so what they find out that they would do first, that they have to groom the parent first, the caregiver. And so they'll come over when it's convenient. If they know that the parent needs help, they stressing, they may need a break, they need somebody to babysit. They may need somebody just to come and just help them with food, groceries, or whatever. But every time you need a break or you need a babysitter, they always there. And so once the parent gets real close to whoever it is, and remember, mostly it's a family member or close associate to someone in the family. Once they get that trust with them, the next thing that they do is that their next move is that they're going to now groom the child. And remember, they pick out the child that is have low self-esteem, that may be shy, that may be quiet and timid. We can pretty much figure those out. That's the child that they're going to pick. And so what happens is that they'll start spending more time with that particular child. And they might buy them things, they might take them somewhere. And when I say that grooming takes a while, it takes a while. So they'll start touching the child, not inappropriate at first, but that's what it leads to. So the child can get used to them touching them. So they may rub on their arm. They may give them like hugs. They may start tickling them, and then wait for the child to get okay with that and comfortable with it. So after a long period of time, the child's getting real close to them and comfortable with them touching them just casually. Then they'll start doing some inappropriate touches. Now, in between that time before they get to the inappropriate touches, I want you to remember that they're spending a lot of time with them. They're giving them some attention that the parent is not giving them. They are speaking positive things into them and telling them great things that the parent doesn't do. And they also providing them with just tangible things. They may give them money. They may give them a lot of gifts and stuff. And so that's the grooming process. And then once they do that, then they move in on them. And so most of the time, it is hard for the child to say anything because of the bond that they have. Yeah, and so because of that bond, they begin to have remorse for the predator. So I want you guys to make sure that you guys pay attention to this and pay attention to the signs and watching your child. But one of the biggest things that you guys can do is start having conversations. And I know a lot of people is like, hey, when is a good time to start having conversations? You want to start having conversations the day that you give birth. You want to start having conversations the day that you conceive your child and you know that you're pregnant. You can start having those conversations. There are a lot of books. There's a lot of content that is available that where you can start reading to your child based on their age group where they can understand. One of the other things that parents can start doing too is that you want to start practicing boundaries. And so we're living in a climate now where, back in the day, when you see your parents or your aunties and your uncles or whatever, they were older than you were made to hug them. They want to give you a hug. They want to give you a kiss. Well, in today's climate, when we teaching our kids boundaries, it's like, this is your body. And if you don't want to give a hug and if you don't want nobody to kiss you, you don't have to. So what do parents need to start doing? Remember, you have to model the behaviors that you want your child to have. And so instead of just hugging your child, ask them, hey, can mommy get a hug? Can daddy get a hug? You know, and if the child doesn't want to, then the child has a right to say, no, I don't want a hug. And then you're like, okay, well, can we get a fist pump, a high five? And even if they don't want to, respect that. And so what happens is that you're teaching them boundaries with their body. It's called body boundaries. And knowing that no matter where they go, you're teaching them that. And the reason why I tell you guys to start early, to having these conversations, you need to have the conversation more than one time. You need to have these conversations as many as times as you need to, because what you are doing, you are making it safe and easy for them to talk about. If anything ever happens to them, now they know what to do, and they know they can come to you guys, and the parents or the caregivers are going to be able to support them. But you also just teaching them what they need to do and giving them red flags and green flags, you know, as far as what is a red flag, what are red flag people, what are green flag people. And so there is some books out there. I would encourage you guys to please go on YouTube. And I am going to put some of those books and stuff in the link. And I'm also going to put this video right here in the link. Oprah did before she ended her show, she had a whole series on child abuse. And in this particular video, she is talking to predators. These predators are telling you guys what they look for. They telling you what they do. They telling you how long it took them and all of that and the reasoning why. And so this video right here is good for any parent, any caregiver to watch, because it's going to give you some great insight. So I will encourage you guys to please go and watch this. The link is going to be in, I'm going to put the link in the comments so you guys can go and watch this, and it will do you some good, because you know, here in Oklahoma, we have tornadoes, right? We in tornado season now. Can't wait till May come because it's going in. But when I was going to school, we had to do these tornado drills. We also had to do fire drills. And I know everybody in school did fire drills, right? And so we had to do them so many times. So it wasn't like we did them one time, boom, and you're finished. The reasoning why that we had to do them a lot is because you had to learn how to do it. If we just did it one time and we had a fire or a tornado came and hit the school, we really wouldn't remember the drill that we only did one time. And so they would do it all the time. So when it happens, that we'll know what to do because we practice so much. This is why you want to have conversations with your kids. You want to give them information on good touches, bad touches, good pictures, bad pictures, body boundaries, and what to do, what to look for. And you have these conversations regularly with them. So if anything happens to them, they automatically know what to do. They know who to reach out to. So I would encourage you guys to please, if you have not, start having these conversations with your kids. If you can do it once a week, that's fine. If you can do it once every 2 weeks, but y'all need to schedule it and you need to have it. And I know a lot of parents are not comfortable with talking about it and stuff, and that's good. So y'all sit down and y'all watch the YouTube videos, because they have a lot of videos of people reading the books. And you guys can sit and listen to them read the book and then have the conversation afterwards. But whatever you do, get the conversation started. Now, I hope this podcast, I hope it was very education for you. I hope you learned something from it. And remember, never take my word or anybody else's word. I want you guys to go out there and do your own research. Go and get your own receipts so it can verify what I'm saying and you just not taking my words for it. But this ends our podcast for today. And in the words of Tabitha Brown, go and have a good day. But if you're not having a good day, don't you mess up somebody else's day. And in the words of me, go put yourself in time out until you feel better and you can come back and reconnect. Until then, I will see you guys next week. Have a great rest of your week.